This this week is a double portion and Rosh Chodesh. So it's Matos Maseh and Rosh Chodesh. Really, I see. Really, when it's Rosh Chodesh, we daven nates. But I feel, and as much as I would want to daven nates, I feel that it's not fair to certain people because I wasn't here last week, and there'd be 2 weeks in a row without coming to daven together. So I don't think that's fair to them. So that's why we're not going to. What? No, so I don't think we should daven nates this week, even though I would want it very much, and I think we get a minyan, and it's so special to daven nates on Rosh Chodesh. But it's not fair to certain people. Like during the week, a lot of people, they don't count on it for their spiritual inspiration. But some people who come here, like they count on it. And if it was just 1 week in the summer that they missed, it'd be one thing. But I wasn't here last week, and I don't want to keep people out of. Yeah, nothing's never normal, but typical. Not normal, Jeff. We're not normal here. We're not normal, but it is Rosh Chodesh, and it is Matos Masai, and it is the second Haftorah of the 3 weeks. So there are all these unusual. No, two Torahs, but it's a double portion. But we read that from one Torah, and then we have Rosh Chodesh. So it's a double portion plus Rosh Chodesh. So this morning at our Parsha class, we discussed Maseh, the journeys. Our life is a series of journeys and look back with perspective. So now we'll look at Parshas Matos, and we'll start studying with the Rashi. Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes of Bnei Israel Emor, the children of Israel, saying, Zeh hadavar. Normally when it says Zeh, it means God's pointing to something. But here it's Moshe speaking. When he says, this is the matter, Asher Tzivah Hashem, that God has commanded. Elliot, our star of Yeshiva Bachar, is going to read for us the Rashi. Elliot, Vakasha. Rashi Matos. What does that mean? Chilek kavod l'nesiim. He gave honor to the princes. Meaning to say, this is a commandment for all of Bnei Israel. So why did he first give why did he speak to the princes? Well, by the way, Jeffrey, what's your verdict on the soup? Okay, good. I made it this week. Okay. All right, good. I wanted to see if you liked it first. Okay. So Moshe gave honor to the princes to teach them first, meaning to say this was a law for all of Israel. Why is he speaking to the princes? So first he told it to the princes, and afterwards, go on. And afterwards he spoke to all of the children of Israel. Go on. Okay, so now Rashi tells us something else. How do we know that this was the case with all of the mitzvot? All of the commandments in the Torah were first told to the princes, and then he gave them honor, and then told to all of Am Yisrael. So this is something we might not have realized. How do we know that that's the case? Go on. So Vayishavu Aaron, Elav Aaron V'Kol Nisim B'Yadai, and Aaron and all the princes came back to him, and Moshe spoke to them. So basically, this is an idea that Moshe first spoke to the Nisim, and only then to all the nations. So now we have another question. But the next question is, well, then why here does it specify this? Why does it wait till Parshas Matos when we're basically 70% done with the Torah to tell us that this halacha? And Moshe first spoke all the mitzvahs straight to the princes, and only then. Go on. So why here is it make this point? The Yachid Mumche. So it's teaching us a very important idea that this passage is talking about the laws of Hafarat Nidarim, the annulment of vows. The annulment of vows. And so it's teaching us who can annul a vow? Yachid Mumche. Even an individual who's an expert, he's just an individual. As long as he's an expert, he has the ability to annul a vow. He doesn't need a court of three. So that's like a prince who's an expert. Go on. Hediotot. And if you don't have an individual as an expert, and even three commoners can annul a vow. Where do we have three commoners annulling a vow? On the eve of Rosh Hashanah, we do what's called Hatarat Nidarim. Then you don't have to be a rabbi to do it. You don't have to be an expert in vows. You have to be a hedjo. So, go on.
Oh yeah,
So then Rashi says, well, maybe it's the case that this passage was actually only said to the Nisiim, and it was not said to all of Am Yisrael. Is that really the case? Rashi is going to reject that. Why?
It
says here Zadavar, this phrase Zadavar. And it says about a mitzvah slaughtering outside the temple, it says there Zadavar. Go on. So that's the same word. Whenever you have the same words appearing in two places, we can compare them, calling what's called a Gezerah Shema. You compare the words. Go on. So just like that commandment that you can't slaughter outside the area of the temple was said to all of the children of Israel. As it says, speak to Aaron and tell him to tell all the children of Israel. It says, speak to Aaron, to all his sons, and to all the children of Israel. So too also over here was said to all of them. This is Gemara in Nedarim 38a. Okay, so first of all, the first point Rashi makes is that this commandment was not just for the princes, it was for everybody. And Rashi's point is, well, if that's the case, why does it say just to the princes? It's to teach us an idea that a prince has an extra authority here, that a scholar, an expert, mumcha, a chacham, can annul a vow even by himself, whereas you don't need a court of three to annul a vow, unless they're not experts. Then you need a court of three. Today, nobody's really considered an expert. Hello, Akiva. Grab a chumash, Akiva. Welcome back. Any summer, my attitude, grab a chumash, Akiva. My attitude is any summer where you don't get tossed from camp is a successful summer. No, I was never tossed. I was never tossed from a camp. Oh, I might have been a troublemaker. Well, I was a troublemaker, but I was never actually tossed. I did some things which they should have tossed me for, but they never. They had mercy on me. They had mercy on me. What?
So they didn't show the same.
That's why they tossed you. Oh, but they let you right back in with a raise. With a raise. There you go. So anyway, I deserve to be tossed. But on the other hand, when I started going to this camp, there were like 30 kids there, and now there's like 700. If it had been a big camp, they would have tossed me. But when 30 kids, they're losing half their boys' division. They tossed me. Okay. So anyway, it says, this is the matter which God commanded. So go on, Elliot, please continue. Okay. So Rashi uses this idea to say that this is the matter that Moses said to highlight the distinction between Moshe and the other prophets. And Moshe prophesied using the words Ko Amar Hashem, but so did the prophets also use that phrase Ko Amar Hashem. So Musaf and Moshe had an additional phrase of Zadavar. What's the difference between Ko Amar? Ko Amar means so says God. I mean, say you have an approximation of what God says, as opposed to zadavar, which means this is exactly what God said. So Moshe was able to prophesize with more certainty as to what God was saying. That's what Rashi is saying, that Moshe knew with greater certainty. Go on. Davar acher. Rashi gives a second explanation about zadavar.
Zadavar means.
It's a miyut. What does that mean? What does miyut means? It's excluding something. Okay, so he's saying that a chacham, it's limit, meaning say this is limiting to a chacham, whereas a husband, both a chacham, we'll see from this passage in the Torah that there are two people who can annul a vow, a chacham, a scholar, and a husband, a baal. So a chacham uses the expression hatarat nidarim, and a husband uses the vow hafarat nidarim, nullifying a vow, as opposed to permitting a vow. So here it says, here it uses an expression, lo yachel devaro. So that is an expression of like prohibiting, like matir. Go on. And they can't switch it. The chacham has to use the words hatarat nidarim, and the husband has to use the words hafarat nidarim, and they can't switch. And if they switch it, it's not valid. Okay. So this is very technical. Of course, we should make the point. Why do we spend so much time on annulling vows? On annulling vows. Why do we spend so much time on annulling the vows? So first of all, you're not supposed to vow. The Proverbs say, "Tov shel tider m'shetider v'lo tishalim." Better off not to vow than to vow and not to pay. And Talmud says a person shouldn't vow. But why do we spend so much time on annulling vows? Because a vow is about a commitment and a promise, and it's teaching us about the ultimate promise and the ultimate commitment, which is that God has made a vow to us, and we've made a vow with God. So and also today, our commitments are thin. We don't even make commitments. Like people's commitments not taken seriously. Yeah, it's tragic, but you're not supposed to do it, but unless it's for a mitzvah. What I'm saying, but in general, we don't take this seriously because we don't think it's binding unless there's a contract that can be held up in court. But in the time of the Torah and the Talmud, a person's word and vow was incredibly important, and they, like it should be, and they took it extremely serious. So it says, and in fact, that's the custom. Like, why is it that this is the central prayer of the year? It's about kol nidarim, kol nidrei, and that phrase comes from here, kol neder, kol nidareha. The words kol nidrei. This is the only place they appear in the Torah. All the vows. So people just like skip this. They think this is a boring portion, but in fact, this is the source of the most sacred prayer of the whole year. So a vow, that's a very good question. A vow, ultimately, if you violate a vow, that's a vow that you're violating a sin to God. But a vow can be made as a vow to God. Like, for example, I'm never going to smoke. I vow I'm not going to smoke. Or it could be made a vow to another person, where if you violate that vow, you're sinning to God. Like you say, I vow I'm not going to have any benefit from that person down the street, that neighbor. So therefore, such a vow, you vowing that you're not going to have any benefit from them, that's a vow between other people, but you still need to go and get it annulled, even though, and if you sin, you're sinning against God. Okay. So you have to use special words. The Talmud discusses that at length in Tractate Nadarim, all the vows, that the words that are that make it a valid vow. Yes. Okay, so we come to the next verse. Ish ki dor neder Hashem. A person who takes a vow to God, always shivash v'lo asor isar, always takes an oath to prohibit something, al nasho, He should not profane his words. Anything that comes out of his mouth, he has to keep his vow, to keep his promise. Yes, keep his promise. Well, let's see what it says here. Elliot. What's no neder? What's a neder? So this is what Jeff said. What is the language of a vow? Haomer harei alai. A person says, "See now, I take upon myself." Koname, koname. That's another expression of a vow. Koname shlo ochel. He takes a vow that I will not eat. The word koname is like, some say it's a substitute for the word korban, sacrifice. Shlo ochel. O shalo atzeh. We're not going to do things. Go on. I might think that it's, I might think, let's say, take a vow that I'm going to eat this non-kosher food. I might think the vow applies. I might think that it applies. Says the verse. Ve'asor isar. Etamutar v'lo atir et asur. To prohibit that which is prohibited, and lasor tamutar, to prohibit that which is allowed. Lo atir et asur, but not to allow something which is prohibited. Meaning to say that you can't take a vow to allow something which is, you can't take a vow to prohibit something which is already prohibited. That will not take effect. You can only take a vow to prohibit something which is otherwise allowed. Like say, I take a vow that I'm not going to eat meat. That would be a valid vow. So what does this mean? Lo yachal dvaro. Read this, Elliot. So it means he's not allowed to make his words fluent. He can't make his words meaningless or cheap. Did anybody ever hear this midrash that each person when they're born is allotted a certain number of words? You've heard that? And if you want, what? No, but each person doesn't have the same number of words. But each person is given by God a certain number of words, and you have to use your words properly. You go over your number of words, you've reached your quota. You're done. Yeah, but he probably got a bigger quota. No, but writing is not the same as speaking. Can you take a vow by writing a vow? Can you write a vow? Well, this midrash is about speaking, but can you write a vow? Can you take a vow by writing it? What do you say to that? Well, contract. Let me see what it say. Let me see what it say. Let me see what they say here. Hold on. Here we go. Yeah. Here. Here's what it say. Okay, so by the way, if a person says, see, I didn't find the answer to that question. Let me ask my friend. Let me ask my friend. I'll text him. Maybe he'll give me an answer. What? No, they're learning. Yes. I'll ask my friend. Okay. Okay. So basically, is it written vow binding? That's the question. So I mean, I don't know the answer. I think it should be. I think it's a question. I think it's probably a dispute. That'll be my question. No, you have to grab a chumash, Adam. It's probably the question. But the most important thing it says he shall not make his words profane. He shall not make his words chulin. This is something which is foreign to most of us today. That our words are chulin. Okay, so now we do the next pasuk. V'isha kisidor neder la'Hashem. The woman will take a vow to God. Vasra isar shall prohibit something. Bevesa via binureha. Okay, it gets a little tricky here. You have to follow this exactly. She takes a vow while she's in her father's house in her youth. So this is the girl who's a minor who's prohibiting something upon herself. So what does this mean? Go on, read this, Elliot. You're reading next, Ilan. So she's in her father's house, even if she's in her father's domain, even if she's not in his house. Meaning to say that she is not yet an adult. So basically, she's in the status of. Look at the next Rashi. Binu Reha. What status is she in? Well, Katana Vobogera. She's not a minor. She's not under 12, and she's not yet 12 and a half. So it's in there between the age of 12 and 12 and a half. It takes a half a year to go through puberty, go through adolescence, from 12 to 12 and a half, typically. Go on. So generally speaking, a minor girl takes a vow. It's not binding at all. She has no agency to be able to take a vow, except the rabbis say in the Gemara in Nedarim, right close to when she becomes 12. Fine. Go on. And if she's an adult, her father can't annul her vow either because she's not in his domain. Go on. And what's considered a katana? What's considered a minor girl? Asrei Shana V'Yom Echad. Up to 11, she's considered a minor. From 11 up, she's like I was saying before, her vows are examined. They're nibdakin. We have to look to see if she knows what she's talking about. Go on. If she knows what she's talking about, or whose sake she's consecrating, then nidra neder, then it's a binding vow. 12 years old and one day, she doesn't need to be checked. So we're talking about a girl basically from 11 to 12. If she makes a vow, we check to see if she knows what she's talking about. Then it's a valid vow. From 12 to 12 and a half, it's for sure a valid vow. But her father has the right to annul it. Her father has the right to annul it to on a certain period of time. He has the right to annul it. We'll see that period of time. But after 12 and a half, she's an adult. Some want to take this idea of annulling vows and put it in the context of when you take a vow, you're really like obligating yourself to be somebody who maybe you're not capable of being. And the father has the right to correct his daughter and say, listen, you're trying to you're doing something dangerous. The father has the right to protect her, to be the parent and to help her. There's I don't want to say anything too upsetting to people, but today people are abusing the rights of being a parent. They're abusing it. They're they're either being putting their own dreams on their very, very young children, which is dangerous, or else they're just not being a parent. And so the Torah tells us how you be a parent, that you're a parent, that you have to step in at a certain age, and the father steps in and he can annul certain behavior. That's not that's the Torah way. I don't know how else to say it. That's the Torah way. It might not be the American way, but it's the Torah way. Okay, so now we go to the next verse. V'imheini avia usa biyom shamo. So on the day that the father hears it, he can annul it. He can restrain her. Kol nedarav asra asher asra nafsha yakum Hashem yislachla kini avia usa. Okay, here's a question. I'm going to put to somebody. Let's say, what does it mean Hashem yislachla? Rashi is going to tell us somebody. who this refers to. I don't know if we're gonna have the right. We're gonna have the period. We're gonna have the right to get to this Rashi, so I'll say it now. Let's say a husband has the right to annul his wife's vows on the day he hears her vow. So let's say a woman took a vow to be a Nazir, and she that means she's not allowed to drink wine or eat meat. No, she's not allowed to drink wine or cut her hair or go into a cemetery. Nothing about meat. So she took a vow she's going to be a Nazir. And then her husband heard about this vow and he annuls the vow. So now is she allowed to drink wine? Yeah, of course she can. He annulled her vow. She's not a Nazir. Right? Everybody with me? The husband, she said, I'm going to be a Nazir. Husband hears about this. He's at work. Somebody come in. Your wife just took your wife said she's going to be a Nazir. She can't drink wine. Forget about it in your house. No more parties. He says, I'm annulling the vow. The vow is annulled. She's allowed to drink wine. Let's say she doesn't know. She doesn't know that her husband annulled the vow. She doesn't know. How would she know? Her husband's at work. She goes that afternoon and goes and drinks wine. Is she a Nazir? Is she a Nazir? No. No. She's nullified. Does she have to repent? Did she commit a sin? So no. Did she commit a sin? So Rashi says what happened was when Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara in Kedushin says that when Rabbi Akiva came to this verse, he started to cry. He said, this woman who didn't actually commit a sin, she has to repent because it says God should forgive her. That's who we're talking about. We'll do the full Rashi tomorrow inside. How much more so we who actually do commit sin have to repent. If somebody who doesn't even commit a sin has to repent, because technically speaking, she wasn't a Nazir. She thought she was a Nazir. So she thought she was committing a sin. So she has to repent. How much more so do we who are actually committing a sin have to repent? So he started to cry when he came to this verse. Rabbi Akiva cried in a few places in Shas, not just one place. This is an example. You can think about something from America. Let's say you thought that it was the speed limit in a certain place was 25. So and you were going 50, but really it was 50. So and then the cop pulls you over, saying, I'm going 50. You don't have to repent. You were going 50 in a 50 zone, but you thought it was 25. You thought you were committing a sin. Here, she thought she was committing a sin, but she wasn't, and she still has to repent. A beautiful concept. All right, we'll stop here to daven mincha. Baruch Hashem.